Ford Endeavour and Toyota Fortuner. They're two of the most important SUVs in the country, but they're not SUVs for me today. One is Rocky Balboa and the other is Apollo Creed, ready for a rematch just like in the movie Rocky 2. Well, you see, the Ford Endeavour did really well in India but eventually ran out of steam. The Toyota Fortuner, on the other hand, it sold really well until Toyota pulled the plug on the older version. Both SUVs are fresh from a full workout, muscles rippling, and are back with a vengeance, loaded to the gills with more features, more equipment and more ability. So I'm going to play referee and see who can knock out whom in this bout. And the variants in question are the most popular picks. Both are diesel automatics with 4-wheel drive. And the Ford here is the one with the larger 3.2 litre motor. But first, it's time for round 1, and I think the opening sequence is the best time to talk about the smashing looks of these two brutes before they get down to mucking about. I'm slightly confused though as to which one of these two SUVs is the better looker. You see, the Toyota Fortuner is more chiseled like Rocky Balboa, while the Ford Endeavour, it's more beefed up like Apollo Creed. The new Fortuner is a radical departure from its predecessor. The sculpted bumper, muscular grille and the sharp headlamp design give it a tough but mean look. The Endeavour in comparison does not have any sharp edges, but the muscular stance is tough and unmistakable. Move to the sides and the Fortuner looks more modern and sculpted, while the Endeavour looks slightly old school. At the rear, the difference is just as apparent too. The bottom line is that both SUVs look good, just in different ways. And clearly, there is no shortage of road presence here. The story continues inside too, where both SUVs are engaged in a close fight. The Endeavour feels more luxurious thanks to its beige interiors, lots of leather and premium plastics. Also, the center console, the layout is very nice and is pretty well laid out, which adds to the premium feel. And that's of course besides the panoramic sunroof that the Endeavour gets, which gives the cabin a sense of roominess, and of course that's something that Indian buyers want. The Endeavour gets a bigger windscreen and low-set dashboard, which add to the roomier feel inside. The switches are nicer to use and even the infotainment display looks better than the Toyota's and is easier to use even in bright sunlight. The lower half of the Endeavour's dashboard uses hard plastics like the Fortuner, but the quality feels slightly better. In comparison, the Fortuner gets all black interiors. Now they do look sporty, but not as premium as the Endeavours since there's lots of black plastic and very little leather. Even the center console, it looks very busy. But Toyota is offering keyless entry and a start-stop button, and that's something that the Endeavour does not get. The two SUVs trade punches back to back when it comes to the feature list, though there are a few misses from either side. The Endeavour does not get keyless entry, a start-stop button, or a separate cooled glove box like the Toyota, but it does get semi-auto parallel park assist and front parking sensors, which are features the Fortuner misses out on. Ford is also offering its Sync 3 in the Endeavour's infotainment system, which allows you to pair your smartphones via Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, unlike the Fortuner. However, the Toyota gets navigation, which the Endeavour does not. The audio system in the Ford also offers crisper quality and gets 10 speakers, as compared to the Fortuner's 6-speaker unit. And the Endeavour then hits back with dual-zone climate control and temperature control for the second row. But it misses out on reach adjustment for the steering, which the Fortuner does get. And both SUVs get powered tailgates though, and you can set the maximum height for the door to suit your liking on both. The Endeavour's front row is more spacious, but moved towards the back, and it's the Fortuner that has more space in the second row. But it is the Endeavour's seat that feels more comfortable as it offers better under-thigh support. Getting into the third row of the Toyota is easy as well, as the second row seats flip and tumble forward. The Fortuner also offers a better third row experience. Getting into the Endeavour's third row is not as easy, as the seat back only flips down, making it more tedious to get past. And you sit quite low and will not be comfortable over long distances. However, the Endeavour packs an extra. You just need to press a switch to flip the third row seats down, which makes it more convenient. Whereas in the Fortuner, you have to fold and move the seats manually. Thankfully, it does not take too much effort though. On the road, there is a distinct difference between these two SUVs. The silence. On the go, the Endeavour's cabin is much quieter, with engine noise being fairly muted. All thanks to Ford's active noise cancellation technology. Hop into the Toyota after the Ford, and the Fortuner suddenly feels a bit coarse. The Fortuner uses a 4-cylinder 2.8-litre engine with 177 PS of power, while the Endeavour uses a 5-cylinder 3.2-litre engine developing 200 PS of power. But the Endeavour is also nearly 250 kg heavier. But our tests show that the Endeavour was able to sprint from 0 to 100 km per hour faster than the Fortuner. The Ford's time of 10.8 seconds was over a second quicker than the Fortuner's time of 12.1 seconds. A lot of credit for this also goes to the Endeavour's gearbox, which feels a lot quicker to change gears than the Fortuner's unit, which is noticeably slower to shift up. And that also robs the engine of some of its punch. Even the roll-on figures show that the bigger and heavier Ford Endeavour is quicker in roll-on accelerations too. Both SUVs are equally competent when it comes to doing highway speeds, and both engines feel pretty relaxed doing triple-digit speeds in 6th gear. The Endeavour and Fortuner are both old-school body-on-frame SUVs, but despite that similar setup, there's a big difference in the way they feel while driving. The Endeavour feels more comfortable with its softer suspension setup, which absorbs bumps better, while the Fortuner feels stiffer, particularly at low speeds. Over rougher surfaces, the Fortuner feels stiffer and you can feel a bit more of the body shudder. The Endeavour feels more comfortable. It rolls through craters with more grace. And it has an advantage in the city too. In terms of driving in city or maneuvering through traffic, it's again the Ford Endeavour that feels more convenient thanks to its lighter, more responsive steering that also offers good feedback. The Endeavour's speed-sensitive steering weighs up nicely and is also the more communicative of the two, and it offers better feedback while feeling more direct. So to say, the Endeavour is no saloon to drive, but it is the more engaging of the two for sure. But head out onto open roads, and it's the Fortuner that feels more planted and stable, as there's lesser body roll, especially when you're switching lanes at high speeds or entering a long curve. There is a sea change in the way the new Fortuner handles as compared to its predecessor. The new one feels sportier, is eager to change direction, feels more planted and rolls less. The Endeavour has a bit more roll because of its softer suspension setup, but it uses a special suspension at the rear to keep it from getting bothersome. The Fortuner comes better prepared now for rough terrain and gets a 4x4 knob that lets you switch from 2 high to 4 high on the go, and when stationary, it also lets you switch over to 4 low. But its ground clearance of 184 mm is a limiting factor for the Fortuner. Meanwhile, the Endeavour has a solid 225 mm ground clearance, and then there is the party trick, the terrain management system. This is similar to what we have seen on far more expensive SUVs like Land Rovers. Terrain management lets you also customize the gearbox, throttle and brakes based on the mode you choose. This has been a really close bout, just like the rematch in Rocky 2. But unlike the movie, the winner here is not Rocky Balboa. The new Fortuner is leagues ahead of its predecessor, be it in terms of the engine, performance, the handling, equipment levels, or even its fantastic design. The Fortuner is convincing in every way. But when it comes to taking on the new generation Endeavour, it's the Ford that packs in a few more punches. The Endeavour offers better performance, gets more features, and it pampers you just a bit more. To its advantage, the Fortuner does have the Toyota name, and that itself speaks volumes about the reliability of the vehicle. But as a wholesome package and an overall product, it's the Ford Endeavour that gives you more and is priced lower as well. So it's Apollo Creed here who wins this fight.